Hi, welcome back to Ammosmith.com. Today we're going to jump back into a caliber we haven't touched in a long time. We're going into the 50 BMG. Just kind of give you an idea, this is what a moly-coated 800 grain Lapua solid bronze slug looks like. Here's a case, and here is a 308 next to it for comparison. So I'm going to change things around here a little bit. We're going to go over the dies again, and we're going to do some component comparisons, including a case to bullet to primer, and then we're going to go into how we're going to load this. So basically what we have is a 3-die set and a priming system. So we have a full-length sizing die set, which comes with the seating die, and then we have a trim die. Then up here we have the priming tool. The priming tool is a little different when we're using it on the press, but let's take a look at the dies. Okay, so here we have two of the dies. This is the full-length sizing die, which deprimes and full-length sizes the case. Here's our seating die. And for comparison, let's take a look at a standard die. This is a 308 neck sizing die. And it's a big difference, especially when we let's see if I can get this into focus here. Let me zoom out a little bit for you guys. Especially when we look at them compared to each other. Huge difference. Makes this one look like a spark plug. But these are the main dies you're going to want to have in order to load for the 50 BMG. And if we look at the case, next to the seating die, we can see why. You can't use an ordinary press. You have to have a press that has enough length, strength, and thread pitch in order for these dies to fit. So in order to use these, we're going to be using the Corbin CSP2 press. Okay, so here's the third die in the set. This is the trim die. This is an interesting little die because when the case gets pushed through it, we use a file in order to take off any excess material that's coming off the brass from being resized. This is basically a full-length sizing die, but without the decapper and the expander ball. Generally what I will do is I will put the die or the cartridge case through this first, and then, or this one rather, I'm sorry, and then I will put it through the trim die and then trim it with the file. Make sure you use a file and only a file. Don't use an angle grinder. Don't use sandpaper, emery paper, anything like that. That'll be abrasive to the die. This is designed to take the stresses of a file without losing any material. That way you don't change the dimension of your die. And here is the shell holder assembly. The interesting thing about the shell holder assembly is this. This here uses the same thread as a standard rifle die. And here is the priming system. It comes with two priming punches. The first one you get is concave for old style primers. When you run into them, you may, which is nice. And then we have the flat one, which is this guy right here. And so this one threads into the ram, while this one threads into the top of the press. And then it goes through like this. Very simple setup, very well designed, and robustly made for what we're using it for. All right, let's talk a little bit about components. So what we have here is a tray of Federal 215 Magnum large rifle primers. And over here we have a tray, 100 number 35 CCI 50 caliber BMG primers. These are also used in the 20 millimeter for those of you who load it, or the 416 Barrett. These primers are significantly more expensive than the number 215 dies. These run about 50 cents each, where these run about, depending on where you buy them, anywhere from 3 to 5 cents a piece per primer. So let's take two out and look at them side by side. So there is a Federal 215 Magnum primer. Most of you are familiar with the Magnum primers, whether they're small rifle, large rifle, small pistol, large pistol. This is a large rifle Magnum primer from Federal. Use from everything from 7mm Magnum pretty much on up, or even some of the standard calibers for igniting dense, heavy powder charges of ball powder. There's the BMG primer. That is a big primer. Now you can see why it's a lot more expensive. And I don't think it's any more expensive because of the rarity of it, but there's a lot more material to go into it. There's more lead styphenate in there, and there's more tooling and metal involved in making the thing. So let's look at brass real quick and look at some of the pitfalls that are attributed to the 50 BMG brass that you normally will get from buying surplus ammunition. Okay, so here's two examples of surplus BMG brass. Hornady sells some, and there's a couple other companies that sell new unprimed brass. Like all military brass, these things have crimped primers, and they are a pain to get out. But fortunately for us, the primer pocket is a lot bigger. Therefore, we could use one of these to help remove the crimp. And so generally you're going to run into the same type of crimps that you normally run into with other surplus brass. Either it has a standard crimp primer, which is a circular indentation around the annulus of the primer, or a stab crimp, which is usually 3 or 4 indentations around the primer. Both are fairly easy to remove, and there are tools out there now that this cartridge is a lot more popular to load to deal with this. I'm going to change the angle of the camera a little bit, and then we're going to look at the head of the case. Okay, so here we have the heads of the case. If you look on the one on the left, it says Lake City, and you can see clearly the indentation. It's easy to get out, and basically I just use my my deburring tool in order to get that out. Now the one on the right has already been removed by using the deburring tool, and I just use a flat tip screwdriver to clean out the primer pocket itself. Very, very simple. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is set our shell holder in. This is proprietary to Corbin, so I have to use their adapter. We've already changed the cam pin on here from swaging to reloading. So we got that set. Let's see what it does without the collar. See where it ends up. I kind of like my shell holder to be open towards me. Makes it easier to get the brass in and out. Off we go. Oh, nice, perfect. So now, the case is ready to be sized. Now we need to set in our full length sizing die. Okay, so what we need to do is adjust the die in order for it to meet the shell holder, and not only meet the shell holder, but give us a little bit of a bump at the end like we normally do with the regular die. So we're going to run the ram all the way down, then we're going to bring the die to it. Perfect. Okay, now we're ready to size a piece of brass. Okay, so a couple of things about sizing these. The brass is very thick and it's usually pretty hard. I'm using swaging loop in order to size this. This is 50% to 50% anhydrous lanolin to castor oil. Works really good. The one thing that I have noticed that really helps is to wipe your brass off with a cloth, first of all, to get any grit on it off. That way you don't end up having a bunch of abrasives inside of your die that'll scar your brass. Use just enough to lubricate the case and a little bit on the inside of the mount for easier extraction. Same thing as we do with a regular rifle case. Start into the die. Eject the primer. And just a note, guys, these anti-primer cups make good 30 caliber half jackets for like 30 carbine. Just saying. And we have one full length size case. Wipe the excess off. There we have it. This one was made in 87. Or is that it? Yes, Nate. I've seen these as old as 1941 or 42. Here's another 87, which is kind of nice. It keeps the weight roughly the same. When the cartridge cases get this big, I don't think weight really has much to do with accuracy as much as it does for like the 5.56 or the 308. So let's do another one. Again, take a cloth, clean off the outside a little bit. It takes a little more lubricant than normal because of the size of the case. Man, this thing's huge. Look at this thing. You do not want one of these things to get stuck in your die. Because if it tears the rim off or tears the head off the case, you have just lost a $200 die. At least in the case of RCBS. Place in shell holder. We have everything adjusted out. Primer pops right out. Boom, done. For some reason I can't find my large file, so I'm stuck with this. So that's okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the trim die. And we're going to set it up the exact same way that we did with the full-length sizing die. I'm going to run it down until it makes contact with the show holder. I'm going to back the show holder out, turn this about an eighth of a turn, if that, just so we get that little bump on the end. So, again, we're going to lubricate the case. Now, they sell trimmers through Midway, Sinclair, Mid-South, Shooter Supply, and many other places that specialize in reloading equipment, that they can sell you a hand lathe that will turn these. But this will do the exact same thing if you don't have a trim die. So we're going to run this up. Now I'm going to switch the camera angle. I'm going to zoom in on this up here. I want you to see how much material there is left sticking out the top. Most of this is from the crimp and the stretching from the firing, and stretch or elongating from full-length resizing. Okay, take a look at this. So push the file in there, we can see, you can visually see how much material there is on the top. So the way a trim die works is this. Now depending on what you're doing and what trim die, because there's trim dies for many other cases. Sometimes you'll have about this much sticking out. You just take a hacksaw over the top and then take your file and polish it off. So all we do is go like this. Until there is no excess brass left. Like I said, I can't find my coarse file, my large coarse file. I don't know where it is. Let's go pick up another one at Home Depot or something. But this is how we trim brass with the trim die. Just like this. Then once it's done, you have a uniform case that's ready to be deburred and loaded. And you will know once all the material is off of it. And the reason why you know, instead of feeling it cut, it'll just slide on top of the die. The die is much harder than the file. We're getting close. Now if I had my other file, it would only take like 2 passes and this thing would be done. So we're just going to consider this done because it's nice and flat. And we're going to extract it. And there it is. All we need to do now is to deburr it. Okay, so now we're going to set up the priming tool. I'm not going to use a live primer. I'm just going to use one of these fired ones because I'm not going to load anything today. I want to show you how the priming system works. So we're going to take an adapter that comes with the press. And this allows us to take a standard reloading die. We run this down. We take the shell holder off. and then we run this down. Does that work from here? Yeah, that'll work. So the way this works is this. This guy sits in here, and we're going to insert the priming system, which is very simple to install. The only tricky thing is sometimes you need a very thin hex tool for it in order to torque it down, because it's under spring tension. Does that fit? No. So we're going to run this down as far as we can. There it is. Now it stopped. And we're going to place it here in this, which is also takes a standard thread, right? What we want to do is, in order to prime the case, we want to make sure that we're not shoving it too far up. Let's back it out. But we want it deep enough to be able to fully seat the primer. And it looks like about right about there. So the way this works is fairly simple. Look at this case. There's a little bit of a crimp on here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the case off. And I'm going to take my deburring tool, and I'm going to remove crimp, which is very simple. So this goes here. The primer sits in here. We run it up till we make contact. Push down until it's seated. There it is. Although it's fired, you get the idea. And so this gives us tremendous leverage. Unlike on many other presses where it primes on the downstroke, this primes on the upstroke. So it gives us tremendous leverage, and it seats the primer perfectly each and every time. So all I have to do is resize this case and pop this old primer out. Once we get some more components, because I only have a couple of 50 caliber bullets left. I think I got 3 800 grain bullets. I can't find my AMAX bullets for some reason. But once we get some more, we're going to go through the whole loading process again. From start to finish. We're going to size about 20 cases. We're going to trim them. We're going to prime them and charge them and seat the bullets. So I have some more equipment coming in order for us to do that. I need some longer calipers in order to measure the overall length of these things. And one of the tricks too is to take the charge that we have and sometimes divide it by 3s or 4s in order for it all to come out of the powder measure, in order for us to weigh the entire charge weight of 238 grains. Some of my powder measures will measure up to 110 grains, but still, unless you buy a 50 BMG powder measure, you're going to end up doing 2 throws to get 1 charge. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.